When the bullets are flying, what's the first thing you would say that humans or your troops would do? What would be your guess of the first thing that people do?
Hide is a big one.
Yeah, so they duck, right? They stick their
Yeah.
head in the foxhole, or
Right.
they freeze. In crises or pressure situations, most
Right.
people freeze. What's the second thing they do? They don't really shoot back, they run. So fight or flight.
Right.
The third thing, they shoot back. But it's mostly like this: head down in a foxhole, and you end up using all of your ammunition, and you indiscriminately, you end up killing a lot of birds and branches and trees, but completely ineffective of using your resources that you have. The one solution is the leader has to step up, be calm in the face of fire, be maniacally focused, and direct. It all comes down to leadership.
Welcome to the Growth Under Pressure podcast, sponsored by AdaptCFO. I'm your host, Eric Josovitz. Brent Willis is with us today. He has a diverse background from West Point in the U.S. Army to major leadership roles. He's been at Kraft, Coca-Cola, and now more recently in AI and technology ventures. Brent, great to have you here.
I think it's great, Eric. It depends on how intrusive your questions are going to be, but let's see. So
They're going to be intrusive.
I'm
So
expecting.
let's start with an easy one. Tell us more about your backstory and how you went from West Point and the Army into business and now leadership.
Well, it's interesting. The academy, and of course, there's only one. When you go there, your first year, you're only allowed to speak when spoken to. And when spoken to, you're allowed to respond with one of four answers: yes, sir; no, sir; sir, I do not understand; or no excuse, sir. And typically, there's only one right answer, which is no excuse. And you got to take accountability. But the mindset that they're trying to inculcate in all these cadets that they've been doing since 1802, and not much has changed since then, is a mindset of there is no excuse for not doing what you say you're going to do, and no excuse for not accomplishing the mission. So that grounding and that foundation, coupled with the analytic foundation of essentially 23 hours a semester of quant that they drive through you, builds the right kind of foundation that you can do anything that you want thereafter. And I've had so many buddies that have, run, major companies that are still doing it. And I love serving the country, but I also thought our new global wars would be economic wars. And so I wanted to have that experience, but then also translate that into business and understand how to beat the Germans and the Chinese, who I thought would be our long-term threats. Unfortunately, it's not really the Germans, but the Chinese is definitely a long-term threat.
What a transition to have the economics aspect of it in business at top of mind. You know, when I was playing football, and I know you played football as well, linebacker
Both
in
of us
Texas.
have those mental issues from it, right? We've been hit
Yeah.
too much in the head, don't you think?
Yeah, I try to push it aside and not tell too many people. But no excuses was driven into our core, and it's such a big part of business where when you're leading other people, you have to teach them that they can show up every day and get the job done, communicate, and not make excuses. The other phrase that was ingrained in us was the strongest steel is made in the hottest fire.
Oh yeah.
So that was a good one.
But let
Uh,
me ask you, Eric, when you played high school ball in like Georgia, right?
yeah,
They play real ball. It's at least top 20 in the country as states. Wouldn't you agree?
top five for sure. Top three. I mean, there's some arguments here that Georgia and Texas could go head to head, at least from the D1 talent that comes out of Georgia. I
No
mean,
question.
I was
But let
lying.
me ask you this:
Yeah,
when
yeah.
because you were slow, right? So you
No, no.
when you and you played strong safety for a while, right?
Yep, strong
So
safety
when
and receiver.
yeah, so when guys are running the triple option against you and they run around you, or you miss the pitch back, what happens the next day? You got to run the stands, or you get in trouble for not accomplishing the mission, right? So there's consequences when those running backs are blowing by you like they did all the time for you in high school, right?
Yeah, I think Army does a lot of triple options now that I think about it. But you know,
Texas too. It was the wishbone back then.
really, yeah.
Yeah.
So I can remember wanting to just destroy the quarterback, come up and lay a hit, and I switched to linebacker my senior year, and I wanted to come up and hit the quarterback. And there were times when I got faked on the option and was left and came up with nothing. And that's business. Where you're like, oh, I'm gonna close this deal. It's gonna be amazing. You sign the deal, and you don't perform well, and that's the reality of business, right?
You can't control it all. You can control your actions in your situation, but you can't control the external factors and the environment around you. You just need to be able to have I think Clausewitz called it as one of his principles, 9 principles of war from, I think he wrote them in 1812, maneuver. You've got to have the capabilities such that you can maneuver on the battlefield when things change.
Yeah,
And
and you can
they're always changing.
yeah, and you can learn, right? You can learn from your mistakes, but at times when you're in the battle, you can't just stop and say, "Hey, time out. I need 20 minutes." You got to yeah, you can do a quick timeout, get a water break and go to the next play and regroup, which is important. But how do you bounce back? Talk to me a little bit about the way you approach learning from mistakes.
With something that GE does well in terms of after action reports, and this guy, Jack Welch, who used to be the CEO for GE, was one of my coaches. And they took from the military the after action approach summary. And it's really emanates out of the Deming models and the old Japanese manufacturing put processes in statistical control. And sorry to be so angular, but this is how you learn. You take pieces and you take these lessons. You're always curious and you're always a student. And so that after action process of, okay, after every situation, after every team effort, after every work, after every project, you analyze what went well so you can consistently build on that, what didn't go well, and you put in place the action plans to fix that. And ultimately, it's how you put business results in statistical control by continually measuring those things, knowing what you should measure, and continuing to double down on those things that correlate to success, and changing the behaviors or changing whatever you have to do, processes or whatever, to put your business results in statistical control. But it is all of that military after action report mindset. And we do it all the time in my companies, but I know GE does it, and a number of other companies that are driving consistent success do the same thing.
It's a great point. I think a lot of the decision making that you make in the moment comes from being prepared and practicing. It may look like a judgment call, but it's statistics day in and day out that have led up to that one event.
But it's not just you as an individual in terms of how you respond under pressure, it's how your team responds under pressure. And it's easy to go back to military stories because they're so prevalent. You're always in pressure kinds of environments. But I remember, in terms of training my troops and my soldiers, it is all of that preparation such that when stuff hits the fan, you know how people are going to behave and respond in that. And my logic, as weird as this sounds in from a military context, was I had to love my troops. I had to really care about them and know them and understand them individually. And they had to respect me to the degree that when stuff hit the fan, they had the absolute trust in me, such that when I said X, they would respond immediately. Um, and that is critical for accomplishing the mission, and in this case saving their lives, which they knew that I would
Yeah.
do because we built that trust ahead of time.
How do you balance the trust with the no excuse policy? That's to me, that happens all the time, especially with me as a manager. I want to lead from love and care, and my wife will sometimes say that people will take advantage of me. I don't believe so. I think that I'm going to continue to provide this level of care to my team and give them the opportunities. But if mistakes continue to happen, if there are excuses, then there's got to be a point where you cut it off. How do you
Yeah,
balance both?
here's where I think it's a great point that you bring up, uh, and I most managers that I know, when they have a problem, they go to the people or they go to the person, and they focus on that. I go to the process and I say, what happened wrong here and why did it happen? And you try to fix the process first versus berating the individual. And so a lot of those things are either you weren't measuring and looking at those right metrics, or the metrics changed and you didn't evolve to have new metrics. And it's just so easy to attack the person instead of attacking the root cause of the problem. But then ultimately, you're right. And this is principle 101 from good to great, which is one of the great and substantive and analytic business books out there by a guy I used to have a relationship with, Jim Collins. But he talks about get the right people on the bus, get those right people in the right seats, and have the courage to get the wrong people off the bus. So sometimes, even with trust, because, trust is sometimes your investors, your shareholders. You have to have trust with all of these different constituents. And it's not just that one-on-one trust with an individual that works with you or works for you. You are trusted, especially in CEO roles or roles like you're in, to do whatever it takes to drive success, because business lives aren't necessarily on the line, Eric, but livelihoods are. And especially when you're dealing with investors or smaller companies, you have the accountability to drive return for them, and you got to do whatever it takes to drive return for them.
Yeah, and frankly, if it's not a good fit, there's something else better for that person. And a lot of
Exactly.
times it's a dark day and they're thinking, oh, this is the end, but it's not. It's really a new beginning. And we can sit here and talk about how easy it is, but there's so many different aspects. And I completely agree with you. It's the process, it's the person, it's the client, it's every stakeholder involved, the environment around them, the internet. Like there's so many different aspects that you could throw into this that, it's just like, if I could use a military analogy, everything has to go right. You got to have bullets, you got to have the gun, can't jam, you got to be in the right place, strategy. I'll let you speak to that part, but
But nothing ever goes right. Nothing ever goes exactly to plan. Uh, if it does happen, it's rare. And yeah, I mean, sometimes you got competition in the way, or in the military, you got the enemy in the way. But like you talked about, to thrive under pressure and to learn and grow under pressure, that preparedness is key. And under stress or in crises situations, I want to test you. Let's say when the bullets are flying, what's the first thing you would say that humans or your troops would do when the bullets start to fly? This is really under pressure, right? What's the first thing? What would be your guess of the first thing that people do?
Hide is a big one.
Yeah,
A
so they duck, right? They stick their
duck,
head in the foxhole,
right?
or and they, in that case, let's
Shoot
say
back,
they freeze. That's the first.
freeze,
They freeze. They don't know what to do in crises or pressure situations.
right?
Most people freeze. What's the second thing they do? They don't really shoot back. That's not it. That's I'll come to that in a second.
Yeah, I was gonna say what most people do versus what I would do may be different.
Second thing is they run. So fight or flight.
Right.
So they try to evade the situation. The third thing, like you said, they shoot back. But it's mostly like this: head down in a foxhole, and you end up using all of your ammunition, and you indiscriminately. You end up killing a lot of birds and branches and trees, but completely ineffective of using your resources that you have. So it's rapid fire because you don't know where to focus, what to do, etc. Especially if your head's down in a foxhole. And so each one of those three scenarios, which are the first three scenarios of how most people react under pressure, leads to the enemy or your situation overcoming you. You don't achieve success. The one way, the one solution is the leader has to step up, be calm in the face of fire, be maniacally focused, and direct. You can't delegate, you can't talk in big ethereal terms. You have to direct and say, okay, I am laying down M60 suppression fire here. I am going to do some indirect fire over there. I'm going to send this company to do a left flank and blocking maneuver here. And then I'm going to attack this other flank to lead us out of this situation. And so, whether it's in business or in the military or whatever it is, the one solution is a leader has to step up, be calm, because you've gone through all that training. You know what to do, you know how to embody that principle of war from Clausewitz of maneuver on the battlefield when stuff is happening, and you lead to achieve success. So it all comes down to leadership.
It makes me think about that, internal processes in a company, not on the battlefield, and stuff happening, and sometimes employees will want to quit. They'll want to leave. They'll want to go hide in their pillow and
When
cry.
it gets tough, right?
Yeah, and as a
Or
leader,
they waste all their time against stupid stuff that's not going to move the needle.
right, but what they really need to do is lean on their teammates. They need to trust their teachings, what they know, and they need to look up to their leader to say, "Hey, guide us." And the leader needs to step up and be their North Star, right?
You got it exactly right.
Excellent. Wow. Well, ton of background to grow on. I know we got a lot more.
Is that the first question? Oh no.
Yeah, we got a lot more. We're just getting started. Tell us about ProHawk AI, what life looks like today. You got 5 girls. You're very well taken care of, up in those beautiful
Sort of.
Colorado mountains.
Sort of. I've got, with 5 daughters, believe me, some of that estrogen rubs off on you. So I am very in touch with my inner emotions thanks to all of the estrogen
Yeah.
that I've gleaned through osmosis.
So tell us about ProHawk AI, and we can talk about work-life balance as well, because I think that's another one. But tell us what you're working on these days.
Yeah, so ProHawk is the only pixel by pixel real time computer vision technology in the world. So we basically take any degraded data like night for example, in a video sensor, and we take the obscurity and the risks of night and convert it to the visibility and safety of day. And we're actually overcome all environmental obstacles because it's pixel by pixel. We can take out every single snowflake or raindrop or fog particulate or whatever it is, so you can actually see. And if you think about AI and all the different kinds of AI, agentic, quantum, generative, like Chat GPT or whatever, the Achilles heel for every single component of AI in the AI stack is quality of incoming data. So I'm like the janitor of the AI business, if you will. I clean up all of the incoming data such that everything in the AI flywheel work and work better. And our mission is to save lives by making the world a better and safer place. So I'm really fortunate in that we have an infrastructure, and we're one of the key partners as part of the Dell AI Factory, as part of the HPE Unleash AI initiative, and one of NVIDIA's 15 global preferred partners, and one of the top priorities for our global distributor, TD SYNNEX, who's 70 billion in their own right worldwide. So I'm not that smart, especially as an ex-military guy, but I was smart enough to know to get the all of the tanks and all of the logistics and all of the infrastructure underpinning you such that you have overwhelming force. And we have that now as a new software stack solution on top of these world-class infrastructure players. So we are deploying the technology around the world. It's a lot of work because we span energy and transportation and federal and public sector and school safety and you name the industry. There's so many applications for improving data and improving incoming video data such that you can see what you need to see at that critical moment in time. So
I,
that's ProHawk AI.
I feel like we need ProHawk on this call. Like, let's, do work your magic. So, just for the viewers out there, you guys are a software that cleans up video, every aspect of it, utilizing AI. Does it happen after the recording or is it in tandem with the recording?
See, that's the real benefit. So think of a UAV, an unmanned aerial vehicle, a drone in
Hmm.
a conflict zone. Let's just be as cryptic as that.
Cool.
So we take that feed real time from what that drone is seeing. So it's coming in and a person is seeing that feed from that drone. And instead of seeing something that is degraded through sand or whatever the environmental obstacle is, or a battlefield smoke, we get rid of all the sand particulate, all the battlefield smoke, so the operator can see real time the object of interest. And the technology allows us to see essentially 20 times farther and 80 times faster. So think of autonomous driving, for example. Those algorithms are fantastic on the cars until there's snow or night or inclement weather, and then they're really ineffective. But if I can see objects 20 times farther and 80 times faster and bring that visibility into the autonomous driving, that will help us um, save more lives and make the world and autonomous driving safer, for example. So
Absolutely.
those are some of the kinds of things that it does. But we do a lot of forensics for FBI, and um, we've helped different police forces solve triple homicides and exonerate police officers because the body cam footage is so bad, and at night it's
Yeah.
really bad, and we can pixel by pixel restore all of that. And because we're only using physical AI, not generative AI, it meets what's called the Daubert standard, which means it's admissible in a court of law. So you can't use Gen AI. You can't guess at what might be there because it's inadmissible, because then you're technically altering evidence. And so we do all those kinds of things, both to meet the rules of engagement for federal and military applications, but also for forensic and law enforcement applications. So it's a really cool company.
Yeah.
$300 billion addressable market. And like I said, I'm not smart enough, but I'm smart enough to know the $300 billion addressable market is attractive. And that if you have this infrastructure underneath you, like we pulled together, it's executable such that we can embody our principles of no excuse, right? So
Yeah.
just get our fair share of that business, which is all of it.
That's great. I feel like there's never going to be a dull day for you at work. Don't tell me anything else because I don't want to be killed.
Let me, Eric, let me ask you this, right? You've got three kids, right? You've got a growing, budding business. You and I are taking the time and investing the time with each other on this podcast. How do you balance it all? I mean, is that word in your vernacular?
I tried to instill that in my life from the beginning. Now, I started AdaptCFO. I have a company that does accounting and finance services for small and fast-growing, high-growth companies, similar to what you're doing in the AI space. And it's been 8 years on this road. I decided to have kids, leave my job. I tore my Achilles, and all those at the same exact time. It all happened at once, and I've always tried to lead with balance. I can remember in the early days, I would go to the gym around dinner time, and my wife is like, "You're not going to do that. It's not going to happen." And my thought is, well, I'm going to hustle, I'm going to work out, and I'm going to grow and build this life for you guys. And later, I'll do the family thing. And she's like, "No, you're going to do it now. This is
Exactly.
if you don't do it now, you're
I've
never
made
going to
that
do it."
mistake so many times, right? Because it's so hard to get that balance right, especially when you have the pressure to deliver for your family, right? To put food on the table and to build a successful business, especially if you're addicted to the W like you and I, right? It is
Yeah.
really hard to keep that balance because what is success, right? Is success really having your name plastered all over the internet and getting all this personal aggrandizement from business, or is it being a good husband and father and a good servant leader for the community and the people that
Yeah.
you interact with? What is really the right definition of success? And it's taken me forever to learn, and I'm still learning it.
I think it's for me, success at this stage in life is being loved by those closest to you, right? Like if you can fast forward to the day that you're being buried and there's not many people at your funeral, that's not success. Success is when you can balance all of that and you can see your kids grow up. But for me, I have some rules around work-life balance. You can work a lot of hours. You can work a lot of hours and still balance life. And what I do is at 6 p.m. Eastern time every day, I close my computer. No calls, no work. That's my rule. And
No
until the
phone, no phone too.
no phone until the kids go to sleep. Now, I have my phone on me if there's an emergency,
Yeah,
which is very rare. I talk to the wife and I'm like, "Hey, I'll be right back. I need to take this call." But it's dinner, it's getting the kids to sleep. Roughly 8 o'clock, 7:45, 8 o'clock. I can go back to work till 2 a.m. in the morning if I need to, right?
yeah,
I can wake up at 5 a.m. and work if I need to. And it's funny because I don't take lunch with my family. So if the kids are home from school, they get home, my two youngest, they get home around 1, which that's another story. Um,
yeah,
and my wife is here and I can have lunch. In the beginning, they would ask, "Hey, sit down with me." And I do not have lunch with anyone. I sit down even in the middle of the day. So yes, I don't work all weekend. I spend time with the kids. And I think it's the four burner example. It's like you have four burners that you have, and only three of them can be on. One is family, one is friends, one is health, and one is work. Unfortunately, my friends got turned off.
Same with me. I mean, I have so few friends because I don't have the time really to invest in them when you have these other competing priorities, right? It's so hard to get it done. And
Yeah.
then also on the health side, my translation of what you said is you've got your routines. You have your own personal processes to maximize your utils in life and to have no excuses for, well, I wish I was around more for my kids, or I wish I was more there to speak the love language of my wife. And
Hmm.
sometimes it's quality time for them. You can say all sorts of things that you want, but they still want quality time from you.
Yeah.
Uh,
And that's
um,
tough. And I don't
and by
do a
the way,
good job always.
it's not just physical touch, which I know is your focus, Eric, but uh,
It is. It absolutely is. No, all jokes aside, quality time is not my love language. That's not up there. But we're as men, most women, that's their and kids, that's what they
yeah,
want from you. They want
yeah,
quality time
yeah.
and acts
So
of service.
the question is, how do we get time for ourselves? So, like you, I get up at 5:30. First thing I do is I make my bed. Second thing I
Yeah.
do is I go work out. And if I don't work out at 5:30 in the morning, there isn't time at 5:30 in the afternoon or 6 because you have other obligations, whether it's kids or a wife, or Asia's just waking up at that time, so you got to deal with the Asians at that time. So
Yeah.
whatever it is. And
Well, you're
uh,
global, so I don't have to worry about that. I'm just here in the US.
it's going to happen, man. It's going to happen. So be ready, and be ready to maneuver on the battlefield because you're going to be prepared for when that happens.
I will. I will. Thanks to you.
But one of the things that you didn't talk about that I also do, but I know you do it, is you have metrics for the holistic way that you live your life. And that was the only way that I could start being successful in each one of these aspects, because sometimes certain things slip. And I call it my live healthy model. I know this isn't about growth under pressure, but it is, because it is about having your strongest body, mind, and soul. So the H in live healthy for me was to hydrate. And you probably know this, but what does the CDC say that men should drink per day in terms of amount of water?
It's probably like 2 gallons.
Not quite that much, 2.2 liters, which is
Okay.
a little bit more. So basically, a gallon of water a day. That's a lot of water, and unfortunately, it tastes like water,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
yeah. So,
I,
but
I'm definitely not doing a good job. I don't drink enough.
yeah, so
Um,
H is hydrate for me. The E in healthy was eat and exercise. Because eating, that's the medicine you're putting into your body. If you're eating carbs all day long or whatever, or if you're eating junk food, that's not good medicine to
mm,
your body, right? A is accomplish through focus and planning. HEAL is love, be in the moment. And so my metric that I established for love was I'm going to call my mother once a week. Before that, before I put down these metrics, I'd call her every 2 months, or it'd be indiscriminate. Now she knows I'm getting a call from her every single month, or sorry, every single week.
mhm.
And so that is my metric for love. Call your mom. HEALT is thoughts, purposeful thoughts, meditation, mindfulness, and being intentional in what you do. So
That's
for the
great.
first 3 or 4 or 5 minutes of the day after I do my workout and take my shower, I focus. I write out my to-do list on paper so I can scratch them off, because I get enjoyment out of scratching off things on my to-do list.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You
Um,
should see mine.
I look at or read a little passage that is going to motivate me and get me in the right mindset. So that's the ALT. That's the purposeful thoughts. And H, the last H is heal. through rest and relaxation. So you can't be going 24/7. You got to get sleep. Sleep is a great, great, great thing.
Yeah.
And that's when your body and your mind. And I used to pride myself on 4 hours of sleep at night, and then I'd just be working harder and doing more than everybody else. And now I learned that that's just stupid.
Yeah. It
So
catches up to you also.
it does 100%, right? So that's my live healthy model. And of course, I had to make a mnemonic out of it for me to remember it. And I have metrics against each one of these things. Calorie count on the eat and exercise. Hydrate is, I'm drinking my water here, and it's as big a thing as I can chug. And I got to start at 7 in the morning drinking that water. And by the time I'm done, this has to be gone, right? And then I'll drink another half one at night. So
That's incredible. Have you tried putting salt?
metrics, metrics and routines.
Have you tried putting salt in your water? Have you heard that?
I have salt in my wounds, but I haven't heard of that. I've heard of creatine in water and cayenne pepper in hot water.
Okay, I'm going to
A
put you on
little
some
bit of
game here.
lemon. Yeah.
So there are some salts like Celtic or Celtic, however you say it. There's a Baja Gold salt, and these salts are low in sodium. I mean, it's not going to spike your sodium levels, but it has potassium, magnesium, and it's got a ton of minerals and nutrients. And what they say is you drink too much water, you just depleting your body of those. So I'll send you a bag of Baja Gold salt, let you put a little
Do
pinch in your water. It doesn't taste
you do
that
it?
bad.
Do you do it?
I do, but not too much. It's, like one bottle a day.
Yeah.
Um, and it helps. But I love your healthy model. I feel like guys that have gone through sports or the military can be disciplined in this world, and especially with meals. This may be harder to implement for those out there that haven't gone through a structured uh, activity or organization like that. Do you do you also agree that discipline really helps with your diet and all these like because and I'll just say this for me, I can eat the same thing every day. I really clean. People look at me like, what's going on? It's simple. It's like meat, lettuce, avocado,
Yeah. Yeah.
boring stuff. Not that great. But I can do it every day. Is discipline the key to success there?
I think discipline is key to a lot of components of success, and but sometimes you fail, right? And when I'm failing, I analyze it and I say, okay, Brent, what do you have to do to be your best self? And whether you've gone through sports or military, whatever your background is, we can all resonate around, okay, let me get centered here. Let me get my mind right of what do I have to do to be my best self in every single respect, the best business person, the best father, the best husband, the best friend, the best servant for others. And the other thing that helped me was, instead of when I used to be younger in my career and I was very focused on getting to the next job or getting to the next promotion or being the fastest promoted amongst my peers or whatever, all that stupid stuff that you think about when you're younger because you want more. But really what's happening when you're doing that is you're searching for either more money or more power. And when you search for having those needs, it's like a black hole. They can never get filled up with more needs. So I figured out early on, instead of pursuing needs, I'm just going to, on a day to day basis, live my values. So I established them as the four that are important for me: integrity, number one, have integrity above approach. Number two, accountability, do what you say you're going to do. Three, generosity, when people do what they said they're going to do, reward the heck out of them. And four, courage, have the courage to always choose the harder right versus the easier wrong, which is something from my cadet prayer at West Point. But that's hard because I get faced with easier wrong choices every single day, easier ways around things or faster ways around things. And, it comes back to bite you. So I said, I'm going to live my life by living my values, and I test myself in terms of my behaviors every day. Are those consistent with my values? The second thing I said I wanted to live my life with is work to build lasting foundations, such that long after I'm gone, or long after AdaptCFO is gone and somebody's taken over the company, you want the pillars that you've put in place to stand that test of time, because you've put in place all the right routines and processes and metrics and information to sustain that, so it's not dependent upon you. And then the third thing I said is I'm just going to work every day to have a positive impact on other people's lives, whether it's my kids, anybody I'm around, to be a servant leader and put them first. So I don't know. For me, that has been way more successful than pursuing more money or more power or more whatever.
It's not all about discipline. There's a lot to it, and having the courage to step up is so important. And it's clear that you have that, and you have been promoted consistently in your career. And it's obvious, like for people that don't know you, they can just look at this wall behind you. And you got to tell us about these medals and your awards, because it's clear you've had a really successful career. And I know you're a humble guy, so take a second and just give us a little bit on those medals that are there.
I don't remember how I got them. None of them are mine. They're just on the wall because I was.
They're your daughters, right?
They're my daughters. Yeah.
Well, what are
You
they?
do you do what you have to do, right?
Yeah.
Um, when you are placed in positions of leadership, or even not in positions of leadership, you do what you have to do when the mission calls for it. I mean, it's just not a choice. You step up. And so all of that stuff is about stepping up. This is ostrich feathers on my hat I had to wear every day in college, right? That's college, right? And you're wearing it.
That
And
takes courage,
it takes courage to be that dorky, right? Um, but
but disciplined at the same time.
you have to do it all. You do what you have to do to endure through those situations, such that you're prepared, and you know how to respond ultimately in difficult kinds of situations, right? So all of that, and everybody has it, right? Whether it's upbringing from family, whether it's university and cramming and doing what you have to do to be successful in an exam, whatever it is, we've all gone through those things that have tested our mettle and made us, who we are. And then it's a choice to step up when duty calls.
Yeah, and we talked about leadership a lot, but what we didn't talk about is taking orders. And before all of this successful career, you took orders really well. Because if you didn't, you wouldn't be where you're at today. I, I I don't want to talk about, the different generations and the workforce that we have now, and the lack of loyalty and integrity and all of those core values. I just need to know what that big medal with the purple is, and the red. You got to get, what
I don't even have something for it, so I just threw it up there because I don't have a place for it. This was given to me by the president of Venezuela.
what is it?
So this is a Simon Bolivar Medal of Merit, and it was given to me for the anti-drug efforts I did in Latin America, and specifically in Venezuela. And this thing I started called the Alianza Social, which combined the efforts of business, government, and the Catholic Church. because people don't realize in Venezuela, and it's in the news recently, but in Venezuela, there's more murders per weekend than any other country in the world. And 80% of the population lives in favelas or barrios. And there's a small, tiny percent of Class A rich people, maybe 2%. But on average, kids don't finish school after sixth grade. It used to be third grade when I was there. And so we went into the slums, and all my manager said, "You're a nut for going into these places. You're going to get killed." And I said, "Well, bad guys have to sleep. Let's just go in the morning before the bad guys wake up." And what we did was we ended up building 30,000 microempresas because it was 40% unemployment in the country. So we created 30,000 new jobs and 30,000 new individual little companies with the Coca-Cola company, and taught people margin, taught people profit, taught people how to run a little business or a little kiosk or whatever, and put more than just beans and rice, or in that case, arepas and rice on the table. And so we just made a huge difference. And once we established that, in these barrios that were really run by the largest house in an on average a 2,000 person barrio, was typically the guy that ran the drugs in that area and had the control. But we converted those Coke dealers into Coca-Cola dealers, and gave them a legitimate business to run. And we used their houses or rooms in their houses as mini warehouses, such that they could do constant deliveries to this ecosystem of this 2,000 person barrio. And then once we did that, we started to make a difference against the drug trade, because we were giving people legitimate businesses to do, legitimate business ways to make money. And then we said, okay, how do we do more of this? And then we put in training centers, and then we gave away 1 million how to read books to offset the broken educational infrastructure. And then we partnered with Catholic Church to have it fully integrated. So it's just an example of when you're put in these positions, or when you have these opportunities to make a difference, and you have scale or influence at your disposal, use it for good, right? So we just used that for good, and they said, "Hey, you've done a lot for this country in creating this Alianza Social and providing alternatives to the drug trade, and providing these alternatives for gaining better education and improving literacy in our country. So we're going to give you this medal." So I don't have a place for it, so it's just kind of thrown up on the wall.
Just wear it around your neck always.
No, not at all. That's me.
So out of all of your medals, do you have one? I know you're going to get tired of me asking this, but do you have one that you're just really proud of?
I have one medal that I'm proud of, and it's my granddad's. It's not even mine. And he was a wing commander in the RAF, and he flew Spitfires, was shot down over North Africa, and then was a prisoner of war in Greece, which is where the Germans held a lot of prisoners of war. And he helped 1,000 Greeks escape out of this POW camp. And for that, he was awarded the Greek Medal of Honor. So I am proud of that. I actually used to have that medal on my bathrobe at West Point, and I lost the medal part. I still have the ribbon part, so it's just so stupid. And I lost the scroll that they gave, because I don't know where it's gone, but I just feel like an idiot. But I was proud of my granddad for the service that he did and winning that Medal of Honor. And I think, with family, they sometimes we don't thank our parents, or we look at the bad in our parents or our grandparents, and not all the good and the influence. But man, it's hard being a dad. It's hard being a good husband and that role model all of the time. But My granddad and father taught me the lessons of humility and being a servant, and not pursuing the money god or the power god, and pursuing nobility, really, is was in their language. Um, to be a gentleman and to be understated in who you are and how you are. So nobody gives a damn about titles. Nobody gives a damn about awards or medals. What they care about is the personal impact you have on their life. And nobody cares about the past. All they care about is what are you going to do today and what are you going to do in the future. So that's why I don't like talking about that stuff, is because it's just history, man, and none of the history matters. What matters is, are you a good human, and are you going to make a difference for the business going forward?
I love your mentality. There's so much that people can take away from that. It's a different world these days with social media because it's the opposite. It's show it first and then
Yeah.
it's fake it till you make it, and it's a lot of fake it. I feel like every successful entrepreneur, CEO, executive comes from something that built them to where they're at today, a resource, a person, an environment. Was your granddad and father, were they the two people that influenced you to shape who you are today?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to the question, because it's not any one person. I think to be successful, you've got to learn from everybody, right? I'm learning from you, uh, uh, and not that much, but still a little bit. No, just
Yeah,
kidding.
I was gonna say the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. I think if you're curious and you're hungry and you're humble and you always want to learn and get better and be your best self, you can learn from everybody, right? So it's not any one person or any one thing. It's the totality of all of our experiences that we can bring to bear to be our best selves every day. Do you agree or do you disagree?
I think there's something else there though. I think you're right, but I think there's also, like, you were raised by strong parents. Were you raised by both parents?
Yeah.
You were
Yeah.
raised by both of your parents. You had your grandparents there, maybe in a different generation that valued work ethic. There were a lot of values instilled in you. Take all of those away, and who are you? Who's Brent Willis at that stage?
But here's why I disagree. No matter what your background is, no matter what your race is, your color, your creed, your gender, whatever, no matter where you've come from, no matter what your education is, I've studied it. The only thing correlated to success is perseverance. You get knocked down, you get back up. What are you going to do? Take off your pads and quit? No, you get back in the huddle and you run the dang next play and say, I'm going to do better this time. And so we can, so many people have remade themselves after 50, after 60, or whatever. So many people have had such success with high school educations, right? So I've studied it. And there was a big study. There's a book called Grit, written by some Harvard professor, on the keys to success, because West Point washes out 50% of all the people that go. My class started with 1,500. We graduated 686 after 4 years. So the people that stay have this perseverance, have this grit, have this mindset to do whatever it takes to be successful and to overcome the obstacles. Roger Federer, who's a big name in tennis, I think he said he lost more points than he won.
Yeah.
Um,
Same with Michael
Michael
Jordan.
Jordan, yeah, he missed more shots than he made, right? So, um, and you just got to stay in the fight. So, no matter what you've come from, your values, two parents, or whatever, any one of us can make ourselves, if we just get our mind right and we empower ourselves to be all that we can be.
That's a great point. I actually do agree with that. So maybe I'm reneging on what I said.
Oh, it sure helps, right? If you're like you, a silver spoon kid and gifted with everything and natural leadership abilities, natural athletic abilities, incredible looks, just like you have, Eric.
Thank you.
That makes it a little bit easier. But
Maybe. Yeah,
yeah,
it's like it's like a I don't know. It's like you're right. Willpower is everything. And you see this a lot with siblings. Unfortunately, my brother, he had the same exact upbringing as me, and is in a completely different world than I'm in. And that's because I always pushed. I always wanted to be. I'd get these awards like in middle school. I got like the most improved award, and in everything that I've done, I take it as a challenge, and I persevere through it. So, but that, yeah, you do have some of these other guys that had just a horrible life. They were beaten. They were raised by one parent, and they're more successful than they could ever imagine, and they have a chip on their shoulder. So you are right. There are, I think, yeah. Let's leave it at that. Perseverance as a quality. I'm
but how do you grow under pressure? You persevere. You're going to have a no excuses mentality to do whatever it takes to accomplish the mission. And no matter what our background is, any one of us can do it.
That's incredible. So this podcast is obviously about growing under pressure. Can you tell us about a time in your career when you were really under pressure and you were not sure how things were going to turn out? What happened and what did you take away from it?
I once launched Toblerone chocolate in Japan, and it was an unmitigated disaster. We probably lost $10 million. Even though you spend millions of dollars on research, when we launched it, we thought it was going to be a huge success. We brought over all this inventory from Switzerland, and the product just stood on the shelf because what we didn't get deep enough into the details and really talk to consumers. The Japanese women didn't like that nougat sticking to their teeth, and they felt that it was impure or unclean because it wasn't something that they were used to, right? So I was accountable and I was embarrassed, and then I have the pressure for performance. So what do you do in that context? And that is, you do the after action report, you do the analysis, you vow to never trust external resources of anything, and to be into the details, to find out the details for yourself, and not be superficially looking from afar. And so I never made that mistake again. So, and then we came back and we just delivered and delivered and delivered to meet our objectives by learning from failure.
What was your mindset during that time period? Was it mathematical? Was it, hey, let's figure this out? Or did you have the emotions running through you of, oh man, this is bad?
Chorus, this is bad. And then you have the self-doubt and the self-deprecation and the everything. So I remember, believe it or not, I was Coca-Cola Company's youngest president in history at the time. And I was new to the company. And I went for my first business plan presentation at corporate. And I said, look, GDP in these countries is going down 10%. They're having a coup, and there's 40% unemployment and 55% unemployment and underemployment. So our business is correlated to GDP, and here's the math, and here's all the R squares that show how it's correlated to GDP. So we're going to drop 10% next year. And they said to me, they said, okay, Brent, thanks for your analysis. You take your laptop and your R squares and your correlations, and you go back to Venezuela and Colombia and Ecuador, and you come back with a way in which you're going to grow this business. And don't ever think about scratching the polish on my company. That's what the CEO told me at the time. So what do you do? I mean, your first business plan presentation, you're the new guy, you got a target on your back already, and you miserably fail. in terms of your business plan presentation and say, hey, we just spent these billions of dollars to invest in the business here, and now I'm going to come up with a plan to decline 10%. And so, oh, man, that was so embarrassing. So, and then you really self-doubt. But then I got back to my lesson from Toblerone and said, how am I going to grow this business? How do I get close to consumers? Where the consumers are? And then I realized in these countries, 80% lived in the barrios. And I said, how am I going to penetrate these barrios? And I said, F it, I'm going in the morning. And when the bad guys are sleeping. And then I'm going to penetrate the infrastructure. I'm going to learn the infrastructure of how this 2,000 person barrio ecosystem operates. So you got to go to the biggest house in the area, the guy that's running all the drugs in that area, partner with him, let him be the hero to create employment and jobs and all of those kinds of things. And then you give back, right? So ultimately, when Pepsi figured out what we were doing, they tried to copy the model and they would shoot at the Pepsi trucks coming in because they knew Pepsi just wanted to sell Pepsi. We wanted to make a difference. And so ultimately, all of that emanated from learning the lesson of failing with Toblerone in Japan by not being close enough to consumers. And then we came back and we ended up being the number 2 division worldwide in all of Coca-Cola because we persevered. We got our butts handed to us, and then we went back and then we got religion, and we figured out what does it take to embody no excuse and deliver success.
That's an incredible story, and it's such a big teaching for those that go through those really painful moments and they think that this is it, like this is the end. A lot of people I personally have gone through where I was like, I don't know what tomorrow's going to look like. You lose your job, there's so many different things on the line, but that Toblerone situation is what gave you the trajectory into, in the decision making ability at Coke at the next level, which, is ultimately a larger impact.
But it comes down to doing those after action reports. Why did I fail here? Why was I successful here? What do I have to do to replicate that success and mitigate those failures going forward? So it still comes down to the metrics and doing that analysis in every situation to put your trajectory in a more successful pathway.
That's great. And learning from it is the key. I could have this conversation with you all day. I want to close up with a rapid fire, three
Bring them,
questions.
bring them, bring them.
Let's do it. So this is going to be an easy one. What is one metric you check every single week without fail?
Electronic device usage.
Oh, okay. Leave it at that. Okay, recommend a resource to us. Could be a book. You mentioned you make your bed every day. I have that making your bed by that Colonel. It could be talking about the same thing, but this is a practice that has been instilled in all military personnel. But what is one book, podcast, or talk you recommend to leaders who are dealing with pressure, or anyone, frankly?
I would recommend for everybody to go back and watch all the AdaptCFO supported podcasts because there's
Yes,
gems of stuff in there. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree, 1,000%. Perfect.
I don't know of any one, man. I would just say be as hungry as you can to learn. Any place you can, podcast, there's so many different forms of media and
Hmm.
mediums at us. Take it all in. So, and find little kernels that you could bring into your everyday life.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the
And,
shout
and read
out.
and read Good to Great.
That's a good one. I'm gonna put I'm gonna clip that and I'm gonna have you all over our marketing talking about the Growth Under Pressure podcast. All right, last one. A leader under pressure should always finish that sentence for me.
Be calm in the face of fire and lead.
That's excellent. Brent, this was a ton of fun. Really appreciate you joining me today. Thank you so much.
Pleasure, Eric. Thank you, man.
All right. Till
Well
next
done.
time. Thanks. And that's a wrap on another episode of Growth Under Pressure. I'm your host, Eric Josovitz, and I hope today's conversation gave you practical insights you can apply to your own growth journey. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to like, subscribe, and share it with another founder, operator, or leader who'd find it valuable. We publish new episodes every other Thursday featuring conversations with people that are building, scaling, and leading under pressure. And let me know in the comments what stood out most from today's episode. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, keep pushing, keep growing, and I'll see you on the next episode of Growth Under Pressure.